Hey all, Treebeard here. Well, a few days ago we received news that there was going to be a new Justice League cartoon. It's going to be called Justice League Action. And two facts stood out to me. One of them was that it's going to be following an 11-minute format, which the article I found described as similar to Teen Titans Go. And the other thing that popped up was that it would be executive produced by Sam Register. And it also took care to note that he also worked on Teen Titans Go. I feel like the article thinks that these are selling points, but at first glance, my knee-jerk reaction was, oh no. Oh no. But after that, I decided to get a closer look into what kind of involvement Sam Register actually had with Teen Titans Go. And what I found out, and this was me watching the cartoon Hangover, Facts About Teen Titans You Should Know, is Sam Register also worked on the original Teen Titans series. And in particular, there's this quote in that video that Sam Register told them to do what they're not supposed to do. So what I see with this announcement of Sam Register is that he has kind of a hands-off approach. So I'm left to wonder what his involvement with Teen Titans Go is, because Go's operating philosophy comes largely from producers Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic. Those are the guys that said, we try to be as stupid as possible. Executive producer is a really weird role in any production, really, because your involvement can range from micromanaging everything to just giving the okay and writing the checks. Because I knew about the hands-off approach to Teen Titans, I wanted to get a better look at what Sam Register's vision for the original series was, and how far the series actually diverged when he said, do what you're not supposed to do, and possibly have an idea of how his vision might have related to Teen Titans Go. That's when I stumbled upon this article where Sam Register talked about how he conceived of Teen Titans. It was a way to reach out to a younger demographic than the one that was being reached by Samurai Jack, by Justice League, and the various anime that were coming out at the time, which is like early 2000s? Yeah, early 2000s. It also talked about how he wanted to keep the series simple for kids. All the different character concepts are they're very easy archetypes to latch onto. Something I talked about with stereotypes in the Teen Titans Go review was that stereotypes are a good starting point, which would allow you to develop the characters further later to see what parts of the stereotype they live up to and what parts they don't. So what you have is like Cyborg, okay, kids can get that, he's a robot. Beast Boy, he's green and turns into animals, okay. Starfire, she's from space. Raven, she's a witch. Robin, he used to work for Batman. All these were very simple ideas that he wanted kids to grasp onto. Another aspect of keeping it simple was having none of the names of these characters be explicitly stated. Again, this was his vision at the beginning of the series. This interview was conducted like shortly before the original Teen Titans was released. He also mentioned that one more way he wanted to keep it simple for kids is that he didn't want there to be any big global threats. No Darkseid, no Trigon, which is hilarious when you consider what actually happened. He wanted to keep all the conflicts local, and that the way Slade was treated was that he's basically just an evil version of Batman. But beyond the obvious, this tells us a few things about Sam Register's operating philosophy, and suggests just how little he was actually involved with the original Teen Titans. Through this, I'm going to try to elaborate on what to expect if he took a more active role in Teen Titans Go, and what would happen if he took a more active role in Justice League Action. The first thing that I understood from this is that he's very corporate. For better or worse, Register thinks in terms of demographics and ratings. He'd basically have to, given his position as president of WB Animation. I can't help but draw an inverse parallel with how DC handles its comics. What with that infamous rewrite comics for 40-year-old men line that they delivered that one time. I'm kind of seeing an equal and opposite reaction with the way DC cartoons are handled. It's like, oh well, if those comics are exclusively for adults, then these cartoons are going to be exclusively for kids. And again, that's not exactly the case, because there are some DC cartoons that are written with a more adult audience, but honestly, they kind of follow the way DC acts with its comics. And I'll get into that if I ever watch Justice League Gods and Monsters, because, yeah, I did not like that movie. I really didn't like that movie. And it's on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is important. Teen Titans Go wanted to be kiddie, and because it wanted to be super kiddie, it decided to sacrifice everything intelligent about it. Justice League Gods and Monsters wanted to be super adult, which means it wanted to destroy everything else that might have possibly produced joy, and wanted to work really hard to try and prove how adult it was, which in itself is pretty juvenile. With that whole tirade I made, one thing that's worth noting is that neither of these philosophies thinks in terms of what kind of story they're telling, but more about who's watching. It's more about who's watching it than what they're watching. With a more active role, we can expect Sam Register to cast influences to try and make it more kid-friendly, keep things more kid-friendly. What you can expect is a dumbing down that you'd expect from a group that diverges from Walt Disney's adults are just kids who are grown up philosophy. That idea that you do not market just to kids. Demographics aren't even a goal with that. It's about telling a good story, because everybody loves a good story. If he takes on an active role, he might take on notes from the success, the corporate success of Teen Titans Go. I will emphasize, because it is a corporate success, but not an artistic one, and apply its principles to future projects, including Justice League action, which, that's the grim side of what I found out. There's a relatively bright side when it comes to this research that I was doing on Sam Register and how he operates, and it's in the fact that he isn't very involved in the creative process. What happens in Teen Titans, the fact that the characters actually had their real names dropped in subtle ways. Cyborg's alter ego when he went to the Hive of Stone. The alternate universe Robin was called Nosyard Kid, which was just Dick Grayson backwards, and they even showed you that it was Dick Grayson backwards. When Starfire went back to Tamaran, her Knorfka referred to her as Coriander. And even, like, in the 5th season, the Elastigirl, if that's her name, I can't remember, but the stretchy lady called Beast Boy Garfield. So all their real names have been dropped. So that directly contradicts that aspect of Sam Register's vision. And whether that resulted in the series getting canceled, or if he just allowed this to happen because he told them to do what they weren't supposed to, well, make your own conclusions, I guess. Unless you have information about that. I'd love to see it. But beyond that, there's also the fact that we had a whole story arc devoted to Trigon, which means that that aspect of his vision was contradicted. That Trigon appeared and was a global threat. Whatever happened, he wasn't terribly hands-on. He wasn't hands-on enough to stop this before it came out. And the optimistic thing you can take from this is he knows to let the creative team do its job. He knows that they know what they're doing, and he knows to let them do their jobs. And that's actually an enormous boon for that series. With the involvement of Butch Lukic, who worked on Justice League and Batman Beyond, and Alan Burnett, who worked on the Batman animated series, which is a classic. If he lets these folks just do their jobs, if he lets them take on the more closely involved reins, then this series is in good hands. What can we conclude about this? Well, Sam Register is a wild card. The name dropping of him and the name dropping of Teen Titans Go might have been more of credibility to his success, even though I would have used the original Teen Titans as credibility to previous successes. It breaks down to whether or not Sam Register takes an active role or if he takes a hands-off approach. If he takes a more active role in the development of the series, we can probably expect Justice League action to function more like Go. Because it has the 11-minute format, and because Go was a corporate success. And while I said before that I don't think any artists would try to imitate Go, a more corporate individual might. But if he backs off, if he lets Lukic and Burnett and Krieg take the reins on this series, then we might be in for something good. This might not turn out so bad. I'll try and keep up with this story as it develops. And will I watch the first episode? Probably. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic aren't involved with this as far as I can tell, so at the very least their tentacles won't be seeping into this thing. I hope. But until we know more information about it, I've been Treebeard, this has been Hoof Hearted. I'll catch y'all later.